Hello there and welcome back to some more Forza Horizon 4. Today we are taking a look at the DLC cars for week number 20 of the Car Pass, aka the cars that came out on the 7th of February 2019. As usual, we had two cars dropped this week, and the theme of this week was legendary classic Fords. We begin with the 1968 Ford Mustang GT 2+2 Fastback. 325 horsepower, 427 foot-pound torque, 3,548 pounds of weight, C-Class, 505 PI, front-engined rear-wheel drive. Arguably the most iconic Ford Mustang of all time. If you ask a lot of people to think of a Ford Mustang in their head, this is what will probably come to mind. It has a very iconic shape. I'm surprised this wasn't the Mustang they went with earlier on, instead of going for the very first sort of generation of Mustang, the 65 Mustang GT. Of course, this is actually, I believe, the fourth first-generation Mustang in the game. We have the 65 Mustang GT, we have this one, we have the Unicorn, and we also have the Boss 302. So plenty of Mustangs for all you first-gen Mustang lovers. And of course, this car is most famously known for being featured in Bullitt and a bunch of other films around that time. And indeed, you can make the Bullitt car. You can paint it green and drive it around and recreate the car chase and do whatever. Or, more interestingly, and this is something I'm actually really happy they added to the game, you can also add some body mods to turn this car into the 1967 Ford Mustang we saw in the movie Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, even down to being able to put an RB26 engine into it, which I love, because I've always wanted to do that to a Mustang. I've kind of wanted to, I know it's heresy, I know muscle car fans get angry about that film, but I thought it was one of the coolest scenes in that film when they sort of end up building the Mustang, all the build scenes with it, and then of course the final chase with it. Basically, you can build the hero car from my favourite Fast and Furious film, and I really like that. And it does perform interestingly when you do that. That's how I've dressed mine up. That's how I've got mine. I think I've got it running about 800 horsepower. But one great thing with this Mustang is that you can do a lot of things to it. Even if you don't want to make a replica or something, if you want to make this car your own, you can do it. There's so many different tyre options and options for the suspension and so on and so forth. You can make this thing into a drift car, a drag car. You can turn it into a big cross-country machine if you want to do that. There's loads of engine swaps. Again, I mentioned the RB26, but you can stick a GT350R engine in it, GT40 engine, trophy truck engine, a Viper engine, Lamborghini V12. There's so much stuff you can do with this Mustang. It's probably one of the most customizable cars in the game in terms of everything you can do with it. Tyre widths, widened track. There's a lot of options here for you to really build this car into your ideal Mustang, and that's what I quite like about it. It's one of the sleep cars I found in the Car Pass, a car which I wasn't expecting to like as much as I actually do. Again, most of that is down to the fact I'm a Tokyo Drift fanboy, and I can now make the Tokyo Drift car, but yeah, truly one of the sleep cars of the Car Pass in my opinion. A really good one, and one that I definitely recommend you check out. However, while I love the Mustang GT, I don't love it nearly as much as this, the 1965 Ford Transit Mk1, 73 horsepower, 91 foot-pound torque, 3,527 pounds of weight, a D-Class 100 PI, front-engined rear-wheel drive. We finally have in Forza the legendary Mk1 Ford Transit. Probably the most influential van of all time. For those of you who don't know, before the Ford Transit came out, the UK van scene was pretty atrocious. We essentially had the Ford Thames, which was a boat with a steering wheel. The Transit, though, really looked to modernise things up. It had sort of this American-inspired build to it. It was sort of stockier. They widened the track. It had an innovative V4 engines to sort of fit inside that tiny little engine bay. There's an interesting fact for you. The Transit is one of the only vehicles I know with a V4 engine. Interestingly enough, in this game, they've actually gone for the lower option 1.7 over the 2 litre, which is a weird thing to do, but there you go. But yeah, it had V4 engines, wider track. It just had so many influential ideas to the van world. It used a lot of car parts as well, so it sort of rode and drove more like a car than a boat, as the previous Thames did, and as a result of that, the Transit was indeed very popular. For those of you who don't know, here in the UK, Transit has essentially become a Xerox term for a van. You know, people say transit vans when they're referring to sprinters and crafters and all the rest of it. It's just that popular a van, and of course, even if you're not from the UK or from Europe, you've heard of the Ford Transit, because they build this in America now as well. But all over the globe, the world knows the Ford Transit. It is the quintessential van. And of course, being built from car parts, having car engines and so on and so forth, meant this vehicle was not only popular among traders, it was of course popular among bank robbers. And yes, that statistic, about 95% of bank robberies in the 1970s involving Ford Transit, is indeed true. It is the most desirable fan, or was the most desirable fan, to go and rob banks with, because it's quick, it drives like a car, it was nimble, it was just the perfect vehicle. And of course the Transit name's gone on to, you know, live forever. We've got so many different versions of it. Of course, most recently, they've exported it to America now. I can't quite remember what generation we're on. It was 2014 when that generation came out. Of course, we already have a Ford Transit in the game, the Super Sports van. But this is, of course, the Transit. We all wanted the first-gen Transit. And yes, to answer the question, for you lovers of the Ford Supervan, of course, that was a thing they made, with a Ford GT40 engine in it, yes, you can make that. There is a GT40 engine available for the Transit. There's also a couple of other different engines, Turbo Rally engine, and the GT350R engine can go in this as well. I'm not quite sure if there's any other engines. It's less customizable than the Mustang, as you'd expect. Unfortunately, no body mod. You can't turn this into a police van or anything, or you can't do the bullnose conversion, which is the slightly longer nose, the diesels and V6 models, because they did put SX V6s in these in the end. Those models had something we call the bullnose, which is an extended nose, because the engine would not fit underneath it. If you want to laugh, just look in the engine bay of this thing. It's got the tiniest engine bay you'll ever see. The engine is just dinky. Also, fun thing I didn't know about the Transit, the doors actually slide backwards, which is interesting. I guess it makes sense. Of course, that is a convention that got dropped from later Transits. But yeah, it is here, and of course, if you want to go ahead and rob some banks, your chariot of choice is here. Just don't expect it to compete too much with your modern police cars, but, you know, if you've got someone chasing you in say, a Hillman Imp, you will probably get away. The Transit, interestingly enough, D100 I actually think is quite a interesting estimate for this car. This car can probably rock quite a lot of things in D100. Sure, it's heavy, but it does have a lot of power. In fact, oh, I thought it and the Mustang weighed the same, but no, not quite. And it does sit in vans and utility, which is where it should be. Of course, that means you can race it against the GMC Vendura and stuff like that. It's probably more customizable than the Vendura, come to think of it. But yeah, overall, I can't say enough good things about the first generation Ford Transit. I love this little thing, and I'm so happy to see it in the game. It's a great car, and this has been a great week for the Car Pass, in my opinion. I'm a Ford fan, I will freely admit that. So, you know, I was super looking forward to the Mark 1 Transit. Not so much the Mustang GT. I sort of had a bit of a downer on this car, but, you know, after seeing everything you could do with this car, it is a really good car to come into the game. Also, interesting little side note, I believe the Ford Mustang is the first car we've ever seen two of the... Actually, no, there was Civic as well. The Civic was the first. Never mind. I'm about to say, this and the Civic, I believe, are the only two cars we've seen in the Car Pass where we've had two versions of them. Of course, we had the Mustang, this Fastback, and we've had the Liberty Mustang, and we've also had the older 74 Civic and the Civic GRC. Anyways, that is it for this video breakdown of the Week 20 Car Pass pack. Of course, the last month has been a really good month for the Car Pass. You know, we've had the Ford Transit, the Mustang GT, which are great, Hillman Imp I love, NSXR GT is a great car, the new 911 is a great car, 968 Turbo S, one of my favourite Porsches. The only two cars I'm really down on in this pack are the Super Sports Crush, just because I'm not that much a fan of sort of 1930s, 1920s cars. And admittedly, this one does have a cool history, and the Cadet just seems a little bit disappointing compared to the Imp, which I adore. But yeah, really good week. Oh, sorry, really good month for the Car Pass. Maybe the best month we've ever had. The first month was really good, but you know what? I think this month eclipses it. I think what is rumoured to be the final month for the Car Pass is the best month for the Car Pass. Now, of course, going forward, we don't quite know what's going to happen. We do know they promised us 42 cars, which technically means we do have one more week of the Car Pass. Of course, people have discovered through the Forza Monthly livestream sort of an incoming influx of cars. What I will say to that is people saying they're going to be in the Car Pass. I wouldn't expect that too much because you had a lot of reiteration cars, the 300ZX, Honda Prelude. I highly doubt they'll try and charge us for those. If they do, that would be very scummy, and I will be calling them out on it. But I see them more as Forza Fun rewards, seasonal rewards, stuff like that. So I'm not actually too sure what's going to be happening Car Pass wise from here. Again, I have a sneaking suspicion there's going to be a Car Pass Part 2, which I would like to see and I'd pay for quite gladly. But yeah, if you want an overall review of the Car Pass, if this is the last week of the Car Pass, I think there might be one more week. But yeah, it's been a really strong time for Forza DLC. There's more cars I like in this DLC lot than cars I don't like. Of course, there was some disappointment. You had the Spiders, the Performante, and the 650S. And, you know, there's a couple of cars I don't really care about. Midget, Cadet, you know, stuff like that. But overall, a pretty strong DLC showing for Forza. Interestingly, it's quite interesting. It's been 20 weeks since the Car Pass launched. It doesn't feel like it, does it? It feels like this game only came out yesterday. But yeah, it is a pretty good list of cars, and I can't wait to see what Playground Games is going to offer in the future DLC-wise. Again, I'm expecting Car Pass Part 2, or they'll return back to the traditional DLC packs. But let me know what you think they're going to do in the comment section, and have you enjoyed the Car Pass if this is the final week, or treat it like the final week? Have you enjoyed the Car Pass? Do you think it's been worth the money? Have you enjoyed the cars that have come in as much as I have? Do let me know down in the comment section. Anyways, thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, a farewell.